Everybody, today is Monday, May 4th, and today we've got the last three questions for your notes. So pull those notes out, and then let's go over those three questions. I'm actually going to start with the first two out of those three, and the first bullet is which organisms in your food chain are most numerous? Producers, primary consumers, or secondary consumers, and why? And then the second question here is going to ask which ones are the least numerous and why. So let's talk first of all about what the word population means. A population is the number of organisms of the same species that live in the same area at the same time. So when we talk about a population of producers, we're talking about all the individual grasses. So the population of grass, the population of trees, the population of all the different flowers, of all the different vegetables and fruit trees, all of those different populations. And then just like what we would be talking about populations, all the different mice, all the different grasshoppers, all the different bees. And so what this question is asking is which one has the highest number of these individual species, producers, primary consumers, or secondary consumers? And the answer is the producers. So the reason why is that producers need to provide energy to the first and second level consumers. Okay? If you remember, like without producers, there would be no way to transfer energy from the sun to the other organisms. So the producers are autotrophs. They make their own energy and they get that energy from the sun. The primary consumers all the way up to the top level consumers are heterotrophs. They do not make their own food, so they rely on the producers for food. And in order to feed all of these different organisms, or to provide the energy, I guess, for all of those different organisms, then we have to have a ton, like just a lot of these different populations. Think about if you look out the window and you see a whole bunch of grass and some trees and some bushes and stuff, and then think about how many mice there are. Like even just looking in your own front yard. Okay, you've got all that grass, maybe a tree or two. How many mice do you think are in your front yard? Maybe one, but not all the time, right? So it's not like we have more mice than we have producers. We have to have a lot of producers. That's the answer for that question. Producers, and the reason why is because they provide the energy. This is the answer I'd like you to put down. They provide the energy to the first and second level consumers. So then the second bullet question is, which level has the lowest population? Would it be the producers, the first level consumers or the primary consumers, or the second level or secondary consumers? And the answer is the second level consumers. And I'm sure you guys probably can figure this out. The higher you go on the population on that energy pyramid, the fewer number of populations you're going to find, because there's not enough food for them. To be quite frankly, there's just not enough energy to sustain a large number of secondary consumers. Okay, they're going to need a lot of energy. The energy that we get from the producers, they produce 100%, remember? And I told you I wasn't going to ask you to remember the math, and I'm not going to ask you that, but just remember, as they go up, they're going to decrease. So the primary consumers only get about 10% of the energy that's actually made from the producers. And the second level consumers only get about 1% of that energy. So by the time you get up here, there's just not a lot of energy. And so it's just not enough to sustain a large number of populations. And then, so there's just not enough food. That's the answer to that question. Now, the last bullet says, what would happen to your organism community if any of those organisms died? What would happen to the organism community if the seaweed died? Or if you're doing a forest ecosystem, what would happen if the one of your producers died, one of the grasses died? So I want you guys to understand the word community. We learned population was the same species of organism that lives in the same area at the same time. A community would be the interacting group of various populations in a common location. So every single species in this energy pyramid is all of these together create my community. So the question is asking, what would happen if one of those species of organisms just died? We just didn't have it. So let's pretend that all the frogs died. Here's what would happen. First of all, you have to think about what happens in the same level as the frog. There would be a decrease in the mouse and the sparrow population because these snakes rely on these organisms for their food. If there is no more frogs, then these snakes are going to hunt these more. So there would be a decrease in the mouse and sparrow population. Well, if there's if there are fewer mice and sparrows, then there's going to be an increase in their resource population. So there'll be more caterpillars, more moths, more grasshoppers, because the frog's not eating them, number one, but then because these guys aren't eating them. So all of these are going to be increased. What does that mean for the producer then? That means it's going to be a decrease in the resource population for all of these organisms. So that means the producers are going to be decreased. Let me show you what an example in history. This is a picture taken in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl. And I don't know if you guys have studied the Dust Bowl yet or not, but basically there's a lot of things that happen. Farmers were over producing their crops, depleting the soil of nutrients. And so then there just was not enough ground cover to keep the, like you need grass. If you don't have grass, you're going to have a whole lot of dust, right? In addition, there was a drought, so we did not have the water that we need for photosynthesis. What happened was the populations of grasses and producers started to die out. Also, because there was a decrease in water, there just wasn't any water, the coyotes that are usually the predators of the rabbits went somewhere else trying to find water. So they left. When they left, the population of jackrabbits exploded. Jackrabbits can reproduce and have up to 8 babies each month. So without any kind of predator to check them and make sure that their population numbers stay right, then those jackrabbits just absolutely exploded. Well, what do they eat? They eat producers. So the few little bits of producers that we had, the jackrabbits were eating them all up. Same thing with the grasshoppers. If you've ever seen a picture of the Dust Bowl of all the grasshoppers, they just devastated anything. And so it was just a whole lot of, that ecosystem was out of whack for sure. Okay, so thinking again about that third question, what would happen to your organism community if any of those organisms died or they were gone? Think about what would happen in the same level as well as the levels above and below. All right? Okay, so here's what I want you to do today. Make sure that you turn in your energy pyramid. Make sure you turn in your food chain. Those are on 2 different pieces of paper, please. 2 different documents. And then make sure that your notes are filled out. You're going to have a quiz tomorrow on Schoology, and I'm absolutely expecting that you use your notes. So if you are missing any of them, go back to the mini lessons, fill them in, and that way you'll get 100%. All right? Okay, you guys, have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.